Welcome to the deep dive. We are really thrilled to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We are embarking on a really customized journey into a fascinating set of source materials today.
Curated specifically for your interests. Today, we are focusing our attention on the precise mechanics of a highly specific English grammatical structure.
An incredibly powerful one, too.
Exactly. We are looking at the dual negation of neither and nor.
Right, taking a magnifying glass to the architecture of how we communicate the concept that two distinct options are simply not true.
Or just not possible. I mean, for anyone who works with language or studies syntax or even just appreciates the elegance of a well-constructed sentence, the source text we have today is a masterclass.
It really is. It strips away the ambiguity of standard negation.
It looks specifically at how we can optimize our sentences to convey complex boundaries without losing our listener in the process.
And that optimization is precisely why this topic holds so much weight for you as a listener and honestly as an advanced communicator.
Absolutely.
When we examine the philosophy of negation in language, it becomes clear quite quickly that expressing absence or rejection is inherently more complex than expressing a positive state.
It takes more mental energy.
Exactly. If we lack specialized tools like the neither-nor structure, we are forced to rely on cumulative, compound negative statements.
Right, you end up stringing together clauses, essentially saying that a primary condition is false and subsequently a secondary condition is also false.
And in high-stakes environments, whether that is legal writing, technical documentation, or just a really nuanced debate, that kind of drawn-out syntax creates immediate information overload.
Yeah, the listener or the reader is basically forced to hold multiple negative variables in their working memory just to deduce the final meaning.
Which is exhausting. The structures we are analyzing today act as an antidote to that cognitive overload.
It effectively removes the friction from the exchange. We are bypassing the clunky, repetitive phrases.
Utilizing a streamlined syntactic model instead.
Right. Our source text today breaks this down into three core components. We are going to examine the foundational structure of the pairing itself.
Then we will analyze the fascinating way verbs shift depending on subject placement, which honestly presents a really interesting tension between semantic meaning and syntactic rules.
It does. And finally, we will look at how the solo word neither functions as a high-level conversational shortcut.
It is a progression that moves from formal structural logic right into the mechanics of everyday social cohesion.
Which I love.
Because once the underlying logic of these rules is fully internalized, you no longer have to actively translate your thoughts or calculate the mathematics of the sentence.
The language simply becomes a sharper tool. You communicate with a natural authority because the structure itself guides the listener's comprehension.
There is a distinct rhythm to these sentences that, when executed correctly, immediately signals a high level of linguistic competence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's begin with the primary structure outlined in our source text.
The absolute foundation.
Right, which rests on the pairing itself, neither and nor. The text is very explicit in defining this pairing as a tool to demonstrate that two distinct entities or concepts are both negative.
It translates essentially to the concept of not this and not that.
A package deal of total negation.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how this disjunctive correlative conjunction operates on a purely cognitive level.
Right.
It takes two entirely separate negative realities and fuses them into a single cohesive statement.
And humans are exceptionally good at pattern recognition.
Exactly. The neither nor structure capitalizes on that.
Yeah.
The moment the word neither is deployed, it functions as a cataphoric reference.
Meaning it points forward in the sentence.
Yes. It effectively acts as a cognitive flag for the listener. It signals that they need to open a mental slot for a paired negative that is inevitably coming.
It establishes an immediate expectation that both forthcoming options are entirely off the table. No ambiguity.
No gray area at all.
I want to look closely at the specific examples the source provided to illustrate this. Dissecting the syntax really highlights that efficiency.
Let's do it.
The first example given is neither John nor Mike is at home.
Okay.
When we look at that construction, we are dealing with a double absence. The speaker is communicating that John is not present and Mike is not present.
But rather than isolating those facts into two independent clauses joined by a conjunction,
Right. The neither nor framework collapses them into a single fluid subject phrase.
it does. And notice how it dictates the auditory rhythm of the information being delivered. Because neither sets up the expectation. The arrival of the word nor provides a satisfying structural resolution.
It creates a linguistic boundary around the subjects.
John and Mike, yeah. Isolating them together in their shared state of absence. It is incredibly efficient.
The source text also provides a second example that shifts the syntactic focus. She likes neither coffee nor tea. This demonstrates a total rejection of the two options presented. And structurally, it is quite different from the first example.
We have moved from negating the subjects of the sentence, the individuals existing in a location, to negating the objects of the verb.
Right, what she likes.
That flexibility is a crucial takeaway from the source. The structural integrity of neither nor remains perfectly intact regardless of its position within the broader sentence architecture.
Whether it is modifying the subject-noun phrase, as in the case of John and Mike, or serving as the direct object of a transitive verb like likes,
The fundamental rule applies. It acts as a strict exclusionary bracket around the two options. The source emphasizes that both options are definitively negative.
precluding any possibility of a partial positive interpretation.
Exactly. It is an exhaustive exclusion of the presented set.
Now, if this basic bracketing structure forms the foundation of the concept, the subsequent section of our source text introduces a mechanical layer that presents a unique puzzle for advanced learners and native speakers alike.
The real challenge.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We need to transition into the mechanics of verb agreement within this specific framework.
This is undoubtedly the cognitive hurdle where the most friction occurs. It forces us to confront the difference between the logical meaning we are trying to convey and the rigid spatial rules that English syntax demands.
The text outlines a very specific directive, and it is a rule that often contradicts a speaker's intuitive sense of plurality.
Let's hear it.
The rule is simply this. In sentences structured with neither nor, the verb usually agrees with the subject that is positioned closest to it.
Entirely a matter of syntactic proximity.
Exactly.
And this raises an important question about how we process compound subjects. With an additive conjunction like and, for instance, John and Mike, we are trained to mathematically combine the subjects.
1 + 1 equals a plural subject, requiring a plural verb.
Right. However, neither nor is a disjunctive conjunction. It does not add the subjects together.
It isolates them as separate, rejected alternatives.
Because the syntax presents two distinct paths rather than a combined sum, the grammar is forced to make a structural choice regarding verb agreement.
And English resolves this dilemma through spatial proximity. The verb looks to its immediate syntactic neighbor.
To really understand the implications of this, we need to carefully analyze the contrasting examples provided in the source text.
These examples perfectly illustrate that tension between meaning and form. Let's look at scenario A.
Right.
The text presents the sentence, neither the manager nor the workers are in the office. We have a singular subject, the manager, and a plural subject, the workers.
And within this specific syntactic arrangement, the plural noun workers occupies the position immediately preceding the verb.
Right.
Because it is the closest subject, the proximity rule dictates that the verb must morphologically align with it. Consequently, the plural auxiliary verb are is selected.
Neither the manager nor the workers are in the office.
The plural mass of the workers exerts a localized syntactic influence over the verb, regardless of the singular manager mentioned earlier in the clause.
That spatial logic is consistent. But I want to push back on how this manifests in auditory practice. Let's look at scenario B.
Where the text flips the order of the nouns.
Exactly. We are given neither the workers nor the manager is in the office. The semantic reality of the sentence is identical to scenario A. A group of workers is missing and one manager is missing.
But the grammatical architecture shifts entirely.
selecting the singular verb is simply because manager is now physically adjacent to it. Does that spatial rule ever feel jarring to the native ear?
Oh, absolutely.
It seems like there might be an instinctive desire to default to a plural verb because, logically, multiple entities are involved in the overall negation.
That is an incredibly astute observation, and it highlights the exact friction point of this rule.
Yeah.
Prescriptively, the proximity rule is absolute. Neither the workers nor the manager IS in the office is grammatically correct.
Descriptively.
Descriptively, in rapid conversational speech, you will occasionally hear native speakers instinctively drift toward a plural verb.
Because their brain is holding the semantic concept of multiple missing people.
Exactly. They are prioritizing the logical sum over the spatial syntax. But in formal writing, editing, or precise communication, which is what our source material is guiding us toward, the proximity rule must be strictly adhered to.
It creates a localized syntactic bubble where only the adjacent noun and verb communicate with one another.
It effectively forces the speaker to compartmentalize the sentence as they are building it.
The text provides a third scenario, scenario C, to solidify this pattern across different tenses. Neither the teacher nor the students were ready.
And here we see the identical mechanism applied to the past tense.
The singular teacher is followed by the plural students.
And because students sits directly adjacent to the verb slot, the plural past tense were is required.
If we were to invert that structure, placing the singular subject closest to the verb, it would necessitate the singular past tense.
Neither the students nor the teacher was ready.
Right. The temporal shift from present to past does not disrupt the fundamental spatial logic of the proximity rule.
It is a highly reliable algorithmic approach to syntax.
Yeah.
You don't need to calculate the total sum of the subjects or worry about the overarching plurality of the sentence's meaning.
You simply identify the noun sitting immediately to the left of the verb and ensure morphological agreement.
Drastically simplifying the cognitive load required to construct these sentences accurately on the fly.
Yeah, when a speaker is attempting to articulate a complex, multivariable negative condition, holding all that semantic logic in working memory can be daunting.
The proximity rule offers a mechanical spatial shortcut on the page and in the spoken rhythm. You just look at the immediate neighbor. It's a highly practical structural solution to what could otherwise be a very ambiguous grammatical problem.
Having thoroughly mapped out the formal architecture of these sentences, the disjunctive subjects, the exclusionary brackets, and the spatial logic of the verbs, we are now going to pivot.
To the final major takeaway.
Right. The final major takeaway from our source text moves us away from these longer declarative statements and shifts our focus toward the mechanics of everyday social interaction.
Moving from the formal neither nor structure into rapid conversational usage.
This is a critical transition because language is rarely just a series of isolated formal proclamations. It is a dynamic exchange.
And in this context, we see the word neither effectively detached from nor to serve a highly specialized standalone function.
The specific rule outlined in the text is that the word neither can be utilized independently in short responses to signal agreement with the preceding negative statement.
You do not require the full neither nor apparatus. The single word neither becomes sufficient.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this isolated usage of neither is an incredibly sophisticated tool for conversational mirroring.
Social interaction relies heavily on building consensus and establishing shared realities.
Right. When an interlocutor presents a negative experience, an aversion, or a lack of understanding, the listener often wants to validate that statement by indicating that they share the exact same stance.
You need a mechanism that is fast, natural, and structurally sound to express that shared negation.
To see how this operates structurally, let's analyze the role-play examples provided in the source text.
Let's do it.
In the first scenario, the initial speaker states, "I don't like cold weather."
And the prescribed response, according to the text, is the concise phrase, neither do I.
Let's break down the syntax of that exchange because it is doing a lot of heavy lifting in just 3 words.
It really is.
The initial statement establishes a negative preference using the present tense auxiliary verb do combined with not, I don't like it.
By responding with "neither do I," the second speaker immediately validates the negative condition without having to explicitly restate the entire premise.
They don't have to say, I also do not possess a liking for cold weather.
What is particularly elegant about that specific response is the syntactic inversion taking place. Notice that we don't say "neither I do."
The structure demands that the auxiliary verb moves to the front immediately following the negative marker.
So it becomes "neither do I." This inversion is a hallmark of this specific type of conversational agreement.
Furthermore, the response requires the speaker to actively parse the tense of the initial statement and mirror it instantly.
That mirroring is explicitly clear in the second conversational example from the text,
Where the first speaker says she didn't understand the lesson.
and the corresponding response shifts to match. "Neither did I."
The initial statement moved into the past tense, utilizing didn't.
And the response seamlessly adopted the past tense auxiliary "did," maintaining the inversion. "Neither did I."
The source text really highlights how neither functions as a precise conversational mirror.
It allows a speaker to reflect the exact tense and aspect of a negative statement back to the originator, building immediate consensus.
It creates an incredibly tight conversational loop.
Even within these truncated three-word responses, there is a rigid underlying structural logic being maintained.
The response must agree in polarity, meaning it must remain negative using neither.
And it must agree in tense by mirroring the auxiliary verb. It is a highly efficient way of signaling, "I fully comprehend your negative assertion, and my own experience aligns perfectly with that exact same negative parameter."
It facilitates a shared reality without unnecessary linguistic clutter.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and synthesize the overarching narrative we've extracted from our source text today.
A quick recap.
Yeah, we have thoroughly examined three distinct, highly functional pillars of negative construction for you. First, we deconstructed the dual negative neither nor framework.
We established that this is a precise, exclusionary tool utilized to definitively remove two distinct options from consideration.
Operating flawlessly, whether negating subjects like John and Mike or objects like coffee and tea, it eliminates ambiguity by creating a strict boundary of absence.
Second, we analyzed the nuanced mechanics of verb agreement through the proximity rule.
Exploring the tension between the overarching semantic meaning of a compound negative subject and the localized spatial syntax that dictates verb selection.
The rule provides a clear algorithmic solution. The verb morphologically aligns exclusively with the noun that is physically closest to it,
Yielding constructions like the manager nor the workers RE versus the workers nor the manager IS.
And third, we examined the conversational utility of the standalone neither.
Seeing how it functions as a highly efficient syntactic mirror, utilizing auxiliary inversion to instantly align with and validate a preceding negative statement.
Perfectly matching its tense and aspect to build rapid social consensus.
The overarching conclusion of our source text emphasizes that mastering these mechanics elevates a speaker's structural competence.
It is not merely an exercise in prescriptive rule following. It is about accessing the precise linguistic tools necessary to express complex boundaries and shared negative realities with absolute clarity.
By internalizing these structures, a speaker systematically eliminates the ambiguity and the clunky, repetitive phrasing that often plagues complex communication.
It allows for a level of precision and elegance that significantly reduces the cognitive burden on both the speaker and the listener.
It is about equipping yourself with a more sophisticated communicative architecture, allowing you to articulate exactly what isn't happening with the same level of authority as what is.
And before we conclude, I'd like to offer you one final thought to consider regarding the cognitive demands of the structures we've discussed today.
A parting thought.
We spent a significant amount of time analyzing the proximity rule, the requirement that the verb must agree with the immediately preceding subject.
Right.
Consider the real-time mental processing that this rule demands of you as a speaker. In order to vocalize the correct verb form, you must subconsciously anticipate the second half of your own sentence before you have even finished articulating the first half.
That's wild to think about.
If you are starting a sentence with neither the workers nor, Your brain must already have mapped out the specific noun that will follow nor in order to correctly select between is and are.
It forces you to mentally construct the termination point of your thought while you are still actively navigating its beginning.
It is a remarkable feat of forward-looking cognitive mapping. Every time you successfully deploy a complex neither-nor construction, your brain is essentially executing a rapid, predictive simulation of your own syntax.
Ensuring that the spatial logic of the sentence will resolve perfectly by the time you reach the verb.
It is a hidden, highly sophisticated mental gymnastic routine embedded within the fabric of precise communication.
That concept of syntactic predictive simulation is absolutely fascinating. It highlights just how active and dynamic the process of sentence construction truly is.
It really does.
Well, that brings us to the end of our analysis for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of negation.
We hope you leave this discussion with a deeper appreciation for the architectural elegance of these structures.
And that you enjoy exploring the precise, forward-looking cognitive mapping required to use them. Until our next deep dive, keep questioning the mechanics of the information around you and keep seeking out that precision.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. See you next time.